Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever part of the world you're in. This is Jay. I'm here in New York, and today I'm here with Caroline Burke, who maybe some of you have met already. Caroline is our new community manager. She took over from Amanda Ellis, who has been us for a good number of years. I want to say 6, 7 years, and moved to London recently with her husband. Some of you may remember Caroline. If you came to Arusha, you've already met Caroline at TED Global there. And now she's taken over the role as leading the team, working with Taylor and Anna, and you'll meet her if you're coming to TED Fest. And we're here today to talk about the new TEDxLive experience. I'm excited to talk about this topic, and we'll get into the details in just a second. So let's kick off. By the way, Caroline is here with me. I'm going to kick off this discussion, and I'll go over the big changes, and then Caroline will fill in some of the details and also be able to answer your questions. So TEDxLive, I like to call it an extreme makeover with a capital X, of course, because we all like to put big X's in everywhere that has an X in it. So this is really a big change for us in terms of how we refreshed and changed the format that has been going on, as you know, since the early days of our program, which is now coming up on 9 years. And a lot of it is really just hearing from you about your experiences of bringing the TED conference to your community, what worked well, but what also needed some improvements or some more flexibility. And we've put in a lot of changes that really speak to that. Another thing that really influenced me as we shaped this is when we tested out the TED in Cinemas experience. Many of you participated in it, also gave feedback about what worked and what didn't work. And even though we had stopped that program, we tested it for 2 years and we decided not to continue it, we learned some really good lessons from the TEDx community about what they liked and what they wanted differently, and we fed that into this process. And finally, as you know, TED Fest is the first event we produced. We produced TED Fest for the first time last year, and I and my team here completely produced that event from scratch. And it occurred to us that when you have the feed from Vancouver with all the talks, and you can create a great room with a big screen and a good group of people, I'm not going to say that it's easy, but it's relatively easy to create a spectacular event when somebody else is taking care of all the speakers for you and the program. And so in many ways, we wanted to provide you guys with an opportunity to create a stellar event with a relatively low lift, something that's much easier than producing your own speaker lineup, which is what you do in your traditional quote unquote standard events or university events, etc. So what's new this year? The first thing is that we provide you a much longer window where you can actually produce your event. Historically, you had 1 day. 1 day out of the conference was the day dedicated to TEDxLive. There were a number of reasons for it, including the fact that every day that we provide TEDxLive, we have staff in the background supporting the technical infrastructure for it, including customer support for all of you while you produce your events. But we have made the window much longer, from the very last day of the conference until 2 weeks later. And the reason we wanted to do it is twofold. First, we wanted to give you weekends. We know that most TEDx organizers and your communities have full lives and you work or you study. So weekends sometimes are the best times for you to come together and create this experience. And second, we have almost 700 people attending our either TED Fest or TED in Vancouver. And some of our obviously long-standing organizers, and they also wanted to be able to do this. And so you're able to come to TED Fest or TED in Vancouver, go home, get some rest, get some sleep, and then maybe produce the event a week or 10 days later with the help of your team. So those were some of the big things around the changes. So we like flexibility. One question Taylor told me before we started, that one question that came up is, why are we not able to do more TEDxLive events during the week of TED, right? And the question, why are we only letting you start doing that on the last day of the conference, which is the Friday? That's a Friday, the 14th. Saturday. That's the Saturday. And the reason is because the entire TEDx team, the entire and most of the TED office is not here. So our offices here are empty because most people go to Vancouver, and then the TEDx team, with also a lot of volunteers from the TED office, are at TED Fest, taking care of the folks there. And that wraps up on Friday night. We have our last event finishing up there on Friday night, and that's when we can begin to support a TEDxLive experience and have time to support the feeds, the live streams around the world. Okay, all right. Second big change is more. Oh yeah, I guess I did kind of mention that, right? I mean, one thing Caroline is pointing out is it's easy to come to TED and TED Fest and still go back home and do it, especially if you get your team to do some of the legwork before you come. And you know, the way, it's never that simple, but if you're, for example, at a university, if you can get an auditorium and it's got the AV built in many ways, as you'll see in a minute, the rest is just kind of a little bit of logistics, but there's not a lot of heavy lifting after that. All right, second big change, more choice in content. So the way it was historically is that you had the options of showing the sessions. Traditionally, this was on Tuesday, which was on the second day of the conference, and you had the options to show the sessions from that day only, I believe, right? Or from the Tuesday only. But then we thought, hey, why is this limit? Why limit that? TED is having 12 sessions throughout the conference. A stellar opening session and closing sessions are always spectacular, but everybody's going to have their favorites, right? We all come to the TED conference, takes a week, but we say, you know, this was my favorite, and it's never, everybody's got their own favorite. So what we wanted to create is for you to choose the sessions that you think are most relevant for your community. All 12 sessions are going to be available for you for TED, and so you can choose how many of them you want to show. Your limit under the license is that your event can only be one day, and therefore, as many sessions as you can fit in one day, it's entirely up to you. We think that it's maybe anywhere between 1 and 4. At TED Fest, we show 3 sessions a day, and we have some activities around it. But if your community wants to watch talks from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., you know, be our guests. 12 sessions are available to you. We also have a bonus session this year, and that's a session from TED en Español. And Jerry Garbulski, who is leading this initiative for TED and also the TEDx organizers for Rio de la Plata, he's on the call. You may be able to see him on video because I can see him from my screen. Hi, Jerry. Jerry can answer a lot of questions on this session, but let me give you a quick overview. This is of interest to you if you are living in a country where the language is Spanish, or if you are living in parts in the US, for example, where you have large communities that speak Spanish, you may choose to feature that as well. TED en Español is doing a slightly different format. You know what, Jerry, why don't you unmute yourself and give a quick 1-minute overview of how it's going to play out.
The idea for this year is that TED en Español will take place 2 weeks after Vancouver. This is going to be on Thursday, April the 26th, and it will take place at the theater in the New York office of TED. This is going to be a 2-session event, and it's also going to be available through the TEDxLive license. With Caroline, we are finishing the details of exactly at what time it's going to be available, but definitely 24 hours after the event, it should be available, maybe sooner than that, and even live. If you want to show it live, it's going to be from 9:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern time on April the 26th. Some of the speakers, 3 or 4 of the speakers, will also have given the same talk in Vancouver during TED on the main stage in English. So for the very first time, we are going to have TED Talks spoken in more than one language.
Great. Thank you, Jerry. And what we decided to do, because of this overlap with the speakers being some of them at TED and some of them here, and then the proximity of the dates. We decided to include the TED en Español sessions. You can incorporate them into your experiences. If you do want to include the Spanish sessions, that you would want to be planning your event to be towards the end of the 2 weeks window, so that you can pick up the sessions from Vancouver as well as the sessions from TED en Español, which is taking a little bit later. And by the way, if you don't speak Spanish, let me tell you why this is interesting to you. Jerry and everybody, or the TEDx community, actually, a lot of people are helping make this a reality and are helping make this a success. We are starting with Spanish as a model for other languages. So we're changing and tweaking and testing. And every time Jerry and I get together, we always think, how is this a model for when we get it right, we will open it up to other languages. So we believe ideas should spread no matter what language they're in. And this is really our first big experiment in that. So thanks for everybody helping with it. All right. So that was the second big change, a lot more content. The third thing is that we want to make this where we can help, we want to make this as easy and turnkey as possible for all of you. So we will do our best providing you with a host guide. And in the host guide, we will include all of our ideas. Some of them we're picking up from what we're doing at TED Fest, what we're seeing in Vancouver in terms of activations that you could do for the audiences, maybe some ideas of activations in the room that could work well with the program that you are watching on the screen. You have the option, but not the obligation to use any of these activations. It's entirely up to you. Our host guide is there to help and to suggest, but you can pick and choose, pick one thing, pick two things, pick nothing, pick everything. It's entirely up to you. Also in the host kit, we're going to provide you some design and artwork. So we're going to take the look and feel from the conference this year, which is the Age of Amazement, with beautiful blacks and deep fuchsia, as you'll see when the artwork comes up, and some imagery of moving robots and things like that. And we're going to create some templates that you will be able to use at your event if you so choose. If you want to give the event a look and feel, it should be as simple as going to the printer or dropping that in your email, and you'll be able to benefit from some of the artwork that we're putting together here. So that's on the host guide. And then last change, and not least, is that we are allowing you to charge the same amount for your ticket as per the limit of your event. So up to $100 or equivalent, $100 US or equivalent in your currency. In the past, you may or may not know, at the beginning, TEDxLive was, when it was started, was going to be free, could only be free. And then we made some exceptions and allowed people to charge up to $50 when they really needed it. But we decided to do it up to $100, and there's a good reason for that. The reason is, I mean, basically, first of all, we know that it takes money to produce these events. So you might very much need this money for whatever you're putting together. Hopefully you can get the space pro bono, but if not, at least it goes some way towards this. And we want you to be able to create a beautiful event, right? When you're not able to charge for ticket prices, then you have to cut corners, and hopefully this gives you a little bit more of an opportunity to have a little bit more of a budget and think of this as something special that you can provide for your audience. You can decide where you want to deploy that money, what's the most important part, whether it's in the audio, whether it's renting a big screen, or whether it's, stepping up your audience. It's up to you, but use it wisely to make this something special that your audience wants to come back to. It's a great way, you work really hard on doing your one big event of the year. Some of you do a couple more throughout the year. This is another way of engaging your community one more time during the year, doing something special for them, and at relatively speaking, less work than the big event. So I think I'm done. Those are the things of our Extreme Makeover. It's a bigger window with more dates, more option on content, a toolkit from us, a host guide to make it easy for you, and increasing the ticket price to allow you to charge more. And now I'm going to turn to Caroline. We'll start with questions in the morning, but Caroline, share. I know there's some more details, some more technicalities to share. You want to share some of those with the room?
Yeah. The first one is just to let you know that the speaker lineup will be announced soon. So you guys will be able to generate excitement about the speakers. We think in the next couple of weeks. So we'll let you know as soon as that happens, and we can really begin to anticipate it. And to celebrate the speaker lineup being announced, Jay and Chris are going to do a hangout. And their hangout will be on curation. So it'll be about the curation of TED 18, but also Chris's curation process at large. And I think it'll be really, really fascinating to listen to. So we're very excited.
Yeah.
And then
it turns out that Chris Anderson is more popular than us, because last year when we did it, we had the highest number of organizers coming on a hangout. So don't miss it. It's normally quite good, because we talk about what it took for him to curate 100 speakers or so in 1 week, and I think you guys will find it interesting.
Yeah. It definitely will be. And then for deadlines, we wanted to just give you guys an understanding of the deadlines here while we're together. So the TEDxLive applications with speakers, that deadline is March 15th. And for no speakers, it's March 28th. So make sure that you have your application in before then, so we have time to review it and get you set up to have a great event.
And as a reminder, a clarification, if you haven't done a TEDxLive before, then maybe you're not aware of the fact that most people choose to do a TEDxLive purely with streaming the program from Vancouver. And as Kara, I'm going to steal your next point. And when you do that, then if you're not subject to the 100 people limit that you may have in your license if your event hasn't yet qualified. If you're not putting live speakers, you can make your event as large as you can make it. But if you are choosing to pepper in even 1 or 2 or 3 speakers in the program, then you would be subject to the license conditions that you have either up to 100, or if you've got a license to more than 100, you can do a bigger event. I know you were going to mention that, but
that's perfect. And then all of you will receive an email from Live at TED with instructions on how to claim your TED 2018 viewing pass. So that'll be a completely separate email that you get from our community, and it will have all of the direction that you need to get into TED Live to get the live viewing pass. But then you'll receive another email, and that email will have the directions to get the TED en Español live content. So that content you can either show if you have your event after the 26th in order to be able to show both forms of content, or if you're unable to have your event before the 26th, then show TED en Español to your audience. You can watch it yourself or with your family at home. And
so to clarify, if you are only doing the Vancouver version without the Espanol session, then you're only getting 1 email.
No, you're getting
both, still 2 emails.
We want to give that bonus content no matter what.
Okay.
But we just want you to know that if you're unable to show TED en Español because you're not having your event before that time, you can still watch it at home with your mom and your cat, like I will.
With your mom and your cat? Is that how you watch TED Talks?
That's how, it's like my preferred method, so you can check out the technical requirements, and we'll put a link in the chat for detailed information on how to provide AV if you have any questions about it. And remember, sessions are not available for download, so they can only be streamed through a strong internet connection. So that's a big requirement for your event, that you can't download everything before and then show it. You need to have a strong internet connection in your venue. And any other points?
I guess on that, I would say if you are not going to TED or TED Fest, probably doing the event on the Saturday is, if you want a feeling of live. The conference in Vancouver, the last session is on Saturday morning in the West Coast, so you could do that. You could do, if you're doing it on the Saturday, you basically are kind of doing it on the same day. There's a live element to it, but for the most part, I think as long as they know that this just took place, I think that will still be exciting. The vast majority of the talks will still not be available online. As you may know from prior years, in the week or two following the conference, only release maybe 2 or 3 of our biggest star talks. Like last year, I think it was the Pope last year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like the Pope, the talk of the Pope, we released the next day. If it's Elon Musk, we do it pretty soon. Like the big celebrity talks, we release right away. But for the most part, most of these talks will be unknown. And if it's really important for you to showcase content that has never been seen anywhere, then just choose those sessions. You will find sessions where there have been no talks that have been published. So it's up to you. I think, personally, I don't think it makes a huge difference, but everybody's different. Questions. Let's take some questions.
Yes.
All right. Dora from TEDx Tom is asking, are we allowed to adapt the artwork, or should we make something different? That question kind of, or should, so are we allowed to, it's a good question. I guess if we're sending you some templates, I think maybe to honor the design team at TED, I would not take that and begin to butcher it, right? So, from a design purity perspective, our team is customizing it for TEDx, and I think it would be nice if it kind of has a consistent look, Now, if you really need something different, by all means, feel free to do it. And you know what? If you really want to customize it and you feel like we didn't provide you what you needed, I would love to hear what you want. I would love to know what you wanted, because I'm now working on providing some artwork, and I'm trying to think of what are the 5 basic things that TEDx organizers would need the most. And by the way, you've got a chat box right now. I mean, I was like, maybe it's a vertical banner for the entryway. Maybe it's something to put over the door. Maybe it's a little banner to put in your MailChimp email. I don't know, but if you kind of think like, oh, Jay, if your team could provide 3 pieces of artwork sized to fit a certain goal, what would it be? Type it in the chat box, because we're actually working on it right now, and we are arguing. Yeah. We're trying to argue about like, what do we think TEDxers would want? So tell us.
Yes.
All right.
Next question. How do we choose the sessions from the live stream? So
that's Kat,
right?
Yeah, Kat from TEDx Vail.
Hey, Kat, you can ask your question. I want to make sure that I represent it right. Do you want to ask it live?
All right, so we don't have audio from Kat, so we have the question.
Yeah.
You want to answer it?
So I think that you mean technically, right? When you log into live@TED.com, you will see it. It will say TED 2018, and it'll be organized by session. So you can choose it accordingly.
And if you don't mean technically, then I think the way to choose it is by watching all of them. So
totally.
I know, Kat, you were at TED Fest last year. I don't know if you're coming back this year, but watch them. And I would. Taylor actually said this to me before the call. Even if you're not, obviously you're not going to show 12 sessions, but watch all of them. They're fantastic. It's wonderful to see a session from the beginning to the end. We do many things right, and we also have glitches, at TED. So it's good to see it all in raw footage. You learn a tremendous amount that way, and then you also choose which ones you love the most.
And I think, Kat, I saw that you said you might be streaming TED in Espanol. So if that's the case, then your event will be later, and you'll have a chance to really look through everything in advance. Next question is, will you consider doing TED Cinemas again? From Dirk.
Thank you, Dirk. I'm just seeing if Dirk is on video. I don't. We can't see everybody on video. So the question is, most likely no. The TED in Cinemas was an experiment for us. We are always trying out new ways to help our mission of ideas spreading to more places. And TED in Cinemas was a way of getting into hundreds of cinemas around the world and tapping into new audiences. But it's been hard to do something once a year, and getting, for TEDxers, it was hard to engage their audiences with coming into the room. For us, it was a lot of effort, not a lot of Those people who didn't make it into the cinemas loved it. They would send us emails saying this was the best thing. It was amazing. But it was hard to fill up the cinemas, and therefore it was not a great community experience. Because one of the things about TED, as you know, all of you know this, part of it is the talks. Part of it is the fact that like-minded people come together in the room and watch the talks together. That creates the spark and the energy, and some of it lacked in the cinemas. And we also are learning that less and less people want to go to cinemas these days, right? So they're looking for events that are more curated, that are more custom, that are more bespoke. And that's why we decided to double down on TEDxLive and say, let's make TEDxLive the format as flexible as we can for TEDxers to, we're all working together on supporting this mission. And that was our process here. So we were like, let's discontinue cinemas, but really double down and make TEDxLive as best as we can. And thanks for, I assume, Dirk, I don't remember, but I assume you participated in it. So thanks for helping with that. It helped move us forward.
Great. Do we need to have a date set for a standard event in order to apply for a TEDxLive license? From Cesar. No. No, this is it. Go ahead and apply. And thanks for your question.
Yeah, I think the only thing is like you just want to be in good standing, right? So if you're an active licensee and you're ready to apply for your next event, that's no problem. If you still have some lingering issues from prior event, or if you didn't close it properly, etc., the licensing team might use the opportunity that they're in touch with you to ask you to close that out. But otherwise, no. I mean, we want as many of you to apply and participate, and we'll work hard to make it possible.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
I see Taylor. You can just say it. Say it, Taylor. What is it?
Someone's asking if it's possible, Ashish from TEDx Boone, to buffer the talks in advance. And
I see. Ashish, you go. I see you on video. You want to unmute and ask the question? Unmute yourself. Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I was asking, can we buffer the video online and not download so that there's no lagging when we play them?
Honestly, I think so.
It'll be available as an archive, so the whole stream should be available without buffering.
Right. Yeah. If you're unless you're watching it live, Ashish, it'll be an archive, so you should be able to watch without buffering. But I would just caution that doesn't mean that you're safe to do it in a venue without really strong Wi-Fi. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't advise you to buffer everything and get it all ready in advance and then go somewhere with the internet.
But the reality is, so you're right, Caroline, but the reality is that some parts of the world where we have TEDx events, it's the reality that you can't get a reliable connection. So I would say, Ashish, give us a minute to maybe write out a technical spec of suggestions for people with a less stable or less reliable internet connection. I think what Caroline is saying is if you stream it one time and it gets downloaded, then you can just go back and stream it again. Is that what you were saying, Taylor? So if you played before the event starts, it should be able to play without having to re-download right there. We think it's possible.
That last time.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we validate the information we gave you, and we'll include it in the email when we send the TEDxLive. Maybe you can send some information about tricks.
Mm-hmm.
So try and find the best connection, but let's kind of do some tricks if you don't.
I'm a TEDx organizer for a university event, but would like to do a TEDxLive event as an individual.
You want to do it as an individual, not as an organizer. I think the answer is no. Right? You have to be licensed. Yes. You have to be a licensed TEDx organizer to do it, and you need to do this as a TEDx organizer. This is not for individuals. We provide this to organizers. Not to the general public. And I think your question is, what if I came in as a general public? And the answer is you can't do that. You want to get licensed for that.
But if you have further questions, we can chat about it in the box.
Yeah, send us. If we misunderstood the question, email us.
Mm-hmm. Antonia, if we have sponsors, can we have videos of the sponsor outside and inside the hall? Videos of the sponsors.
So I think the question is, so Caroline, you're new, so you're still learning some of the rules, and I never really get them 100% right. but I believe that the sponsor rules would be the same for the sponsor rules don't change for TEDxLive versus a TEDx event. And so what you can do for your prior event, you can do in this event, and if you're showing a video in the lobby of your event in some kind of a display, that is absolutely something legitimate to do. So just follow the same rules and you'll be in good shape.
Hi, Evan here.
Hello.
Hi.
With Ajit and Kelsey. We're from TEDx Wilmington in Delaware, USA. We're just wondering if you can pick, if you like certain videos from certain sessions, if you can kind of pick different ones and make your own session, or do you have to have one session block marked off and view it that way?
So thank you for asking, and I'm glad you did, because you can absolutely only do the latter and not the former. So what we ask you to do is we're giving you 12 sessions and we're giving you a lot of flexibility, but we're asking you, if you're going to show any sessions, please show them from the beginning to the end. Do not split them, do not pick talks in between, because then it's kind of feels like a bad TED.com experience, you know. We want people to feel like they're in the room, and I really, you know, I actually we're now deep into preparing for a second TED Fest, so I'm looking at a lot of the photos from last year, and really you can sense that with just a big screen and people in the room, you really feel like you're there. You really feel like you're watching a live event. It's very, very special when you're seeing it in the entirety and the lighting is right and the screen is right. You're really replicating that experience, and that's what we want this event to be. And I think, you know, it will also inform your community well, and it will resonate with them because they know what your event feels like, and it will feel similar to them that way. All right, let's take one more question. Thank you for these great questions.
Any upcoming events this year for 2018?
Oh, that's a question on another topic. Okay. So Saskia is asking, what are the dates for other TED conferences coming up the remainder of this year? So Saskia, good and timely question. Not on topic for here. Let me give you an idea of when you'll hear. There are traditionally two things coming up in the fall. Well, let's just say that last fall we had two events in the fall. One was TED Women, and the other one, and obviously many TEDx Women's events around the world, almost like 300, I think, joined that day. And the second one was a TEDx Global Day, combining with a TED Global event here in New York. We'll be making announcements on both very soon, particularly for TED Women. I keep telling the organizers that are TEDx Women organizers are waiting anxiously for the dates because it takes some time to organize it. We're getting close. We're not there to announce the date, and I promise you it will come your way very, very soon. So this was good.
That's it.
Yeah, I think we had a lot of ground. I hope that this convinced you. If you were on the fence, hopefully you're feeling more excited about producing a TEDxLive event. By the way, one little detail is that the artwork that we're creating, we actually changed the language a little bit, even though internally we're calling it a TEDxLive license because we wanted you to know, to make the connection in the past. The way we're preparing the artwork for you is, for example, if you're Ashish in TEDx Pune, the artwork will be TEDx Pune presents TED 2018. So it will be basically you presenting to your community the TED conference from Vancouver. So the artwork to the public is not going to say TEDxLive. The artwork to the public is going to be your event name presenting the TED conference from Vancouver. You want to be clear in your communications that you're showing highlights and your favorite highlights from the conference. But we thought it was a nice way to position it for your community, and it makes your event look better as an event that brings good things to them. So hopefully you're excited about it. And if you were planning on doing it, hopefully you're still planning on doing it and didn't change your mind. Thank you, Caroline, and to the community team working on this. Thanks to all of you, as always. I know you are probably busy making plans for April, no matter what you're doing. Come back. We'll have a couple more sessions in the next few weeks on Hangout. So we'll see you soon. Have a great evening, day, afternoon, whatever. Bye.
Bye.